Okay guys, so I came up. I'm in an area in the foothills of the Cascade Mountain Range. I plan on doing a couple nights up here if the weather holds out okay on me. We were supposed to get some rain, possibly freezing rain, maybe even snow. As long as the snow doesn't start accumulating too heavy on me, I'll stick it out. But I got my pack. I'm going to be camped right here by my truck. My plan is I brought a few different items up with me. Last weekend, you know, I did the camp out down on the river. I got really cold, so I've been thinking all week about how I can camp in my hammock and be comfortable and warm. So I've brought a few different things up with me, and like I said, I plan on just staying right here by the truck so I can try a few different pieces of gear. I set up a different tarp, and I'm going to try to do a kind of a Mors Kochanski style super shelter for my hammock. I've seen a couple guys on YouTube that have done something similar, but I kind of have my own idea or my own take on it that I'm going to try and see if that will work. But I also brought a couple different sleeping bags to see what's going to go on, and my goal is to kind of play around and see if I can come up with a packable solution, you know, a packable loadout that I could take up in the mountains and stay warm and comfortable. Another thing that I'm going to play with is some fire lays. You know, I've been doing a lot of research on the upside down fire and also the self-feeding fire that Nesmic shows in his book, and I'm going to definitely try the upside down fire, and I may also try to do the fire lay that Nesmic has. Now, from where I'm at and where you can see, there's tons of deadfall around me, so that's going to be a great opportunity for me to try my axe, and we'll talk a little bit deeper about it because I did have a few questions and people wanting to see it a little bit more. So just stay with me, and we should have a pretty fun weekend. Okay, so I think I'm going to set my hammock up between these two trees here. I'll just have to clear some branches. I think I'll put my fire right between my hammock and that big boulder back there. And I'll give a nice place to kind of sit if I want to sit somewhere besides the hammock. Okay guys, so I got my hammock put up. Now one thing I'm doing a little different this time also is I'm setting it very low to the ground to try to mitigate some of that airflow underneath it to see if that kind of also helps keep me a bit warmer. One little trick too that I'm going to show you guys about my hammock and when I'm setting it up so that I know what end is my head end is I have a different color carabiner for the head end and a different colored carabiner for the tail end of the hammock. That way when I'm pulling it out of the steel nylon bag, I know right away by the carabiner if I've got the head end of the hammock or if I've got the tail end of the hammock. Okay guys, let's kind of talk about what I've set up here. So I've got a clear plastic, or anyways, this is a pretty thick plastic. I had it in my shop, it was just some stuff I had, so it's what I used. And I duct taped it to the top of this edge of this tarp. And then I put a ridge line across the top, laid the roughly about 1.5 feet of the tarp over, and then ran a rope around the tree, you know, a piece of cordage around the tree from the corner eyelet on the tarp to the next eyelet in, and then I put a spreader bar so that it would spread the tarp out. Then what I'm going to do is I got these little plastic clamps that are going to clamp around the bottoms in order to help try to keep airflow out from underneath the hammock. Then on the bottom I put rocks, or you could use logs, small logs if that's what you had available, or something, anything heavy, even your pack or something like that would work. Just kind of put them along the bottom to kind of help hold the bottom out. And this plastic folds underneath, kind of folds back underneath, and kind of gives you a place to stand and stuff when you're not in the dirt and everything. So I don't know how this is going to work. I mean, this is a complete experiment. I have no idea. We're just going to have to try it. I'm gonna have my fire out here, one step away from, one good step away from my hammock. The nice thing about this kind of setup too is, this is all cheap materials. If a spark or something lands on it, burns a little hole in it, whatever, that's not a big deal. But the likelihood of a spark or anything getting onto my hammock and damaging my hammock are less likely. So anyways, I'm getting my underquilt put on the hammock and my upper quilt. So, I think with this and the fire out front, my upper quilt, I think this should be a pretty good setup and keep me pretty warm. The only thing that's kind of disappointing about this setup the way I have it right now is it's nice that this plastic's underneath me that gives me a clean place to put my gear and to, and to kind of get stuff done. But at the same time, it's not real convenient to get it, to flip it out of my way like my other lean-to so that I can sit and enjoy the open fire. So we might play around with that a little bit and see if we can do something different there to give us that opportunity. But so now that my shelter's kind of settled and what I got going on there, now I'm going to start building an upside down fire. My plan is I want one that's going to last for a while. I did a lot of research online, and I saw a lot of people do an upside down fire, but they used a lot of smaller wood. I want to see how long we can make one last if we get some pretty good chunks of wood like this. So we're going to build a pretty good size one. So this is kind of what I'm looking for in the way of logs. There's a lot of this down here. So I'm going to start cutting some of these in about 6-foot lengths. Anyways, I got my Husqvarna axe. I know some of you are kind of interested in hearing about this. Let's cut some firewood and then I'll kind of show it to you a little bit more. So at this point, I think you guys are probably thinking that I'm out of my mind a little bit. These are some big logs. And yeah, I'm kind of exaggerating things a little bit because I kind of want to see how far I can take this fire. I'm going to put smaller logs on top of this, but with these huge logs down at the base and being the fact that they're super wet, that should mean that once my fire kind of gets down here to the bottom, it should hopefully just smolder. Even if it doesn't produce a lot of flame, I'm hoping that it just smolders and smolders and smolders and puts off some radiant heat all night long. Now, like I said, these are real heavy, and for one person this was a lot of work. But if you had a couple people and you were setting up a camp around a big fire, a couple people could have carried these logs pretty easy. I've been working on trying to get my firewood and everything together for tonight. And look what we got going on here. I tell you what, I'm getting very frustrated. I don't know what the heck's going on, why I can't seem to keep a head on an axe, but this is that new Husqvarna axe I just bought last week. I didn't put the handle on, it was factory done, but after processing wood for about an hour today, the head just started slipping, and then it just would not stop slipping. It just kept coming off. Alright guys, So we did a little field repair on the axe. Hopefully that'll just at least get it through tonight. Alright guys, so I got my fire pit, or my upside down fire kind of set. I made it a little bit smaller, you know, I was starting to make it longer, but I kind of choked it up a little bit when my axe started giving me problems. You know, I've got just a little piece of bark here, and I'm going to use that as a stub spot. I also gathered up a little pine pitch. You know, everything's real wet here, so trying to find something dry that I can use to start with the fire still is going to be a little bit difficult, so I'm just going to use some of my wax jute twine to get this thing started. So like I said, this is just jute twine that I've soaked in hot paraffin wax. Kind of helps waterproof it, so all I'm doing now is just kind of processing it a little bit, breaking the strands free and just kind of opening it up so that it will take a spark a little bit easier. Well, we didn't forget the record button this time, so we got the fire going. Let that get going, and then I've got some other sticks here we'll start putting on it, but start thinking about getting some dinner going too here. I have to admit, when you get a fire going, it kind of makes all your problems kind of seem to go away. I'm really hoping this fire lay works pretty good, but I have to admit, it was a lot of work. I wouldn't want to do this every time I went out camping, unless I had maybe another person with me to help. Alright guys, so I just kind of hopped inside the shelter a little bit here. The fire's been going for about 20 minutes, and just for kind of give an idea, I started it just probably a little bit before 6 p.m. But it is warm in here. I mean, it is toasty warm in here. Now, I picked up a small thermometer today, just a cheapo one. Right now, I just set it in here so that I'm sure it's not actually reading the actual temperature that it is in here right now, because I'm sure it's much warmer than it's saying right now. But we'll let it sit in here for a little bit and we'll check it a little later. So my menu this week is the same as last week. Libby's taco meat with some freeze-dried vegetables. It's just fine with me. I really do actually like it. I should probably let it cool down just a bit more though. Well, that's cooling. I got the MSR stove going. I'm going to have a little cup of coffee still. Fire's burning pretty good. Turn you guys over to see that real quick. I'd say it's burned through the top layer, or it's working still on the top layer. These sticks here are the top layer, but you can see that it's already the bottom layer is already building in the coals. These bottom logs here are already starting to kind of fire up too, and but they're a little bit wetter. And then underneath that, of course, you have those big logs, and those are the ones I think are really going to be what's going to keep this thing going through the night. So anyways, I needed to come inside. It's starting to rain pretty good. Fire's still burning real well out there. As you can see, it's running about 50 degrees inside my shelter here, which we're not breaking any heat records or anything, but I mean that's at least making me quite comfortable. I mean, I'm plenty warm in here. Yeah, one thing I will say, it is cramped in here. So, that's a I see that as a problem. I mean, I don't know that I'd want to try to operate out of here. Camping wise, it's okay. Hunting, realistically, I'd be out of I wouldn't be in here and unless I was sleeping. So as long as I guess I get a good night's sleep and I'm warm, that would make a big deal. But oh guys, it's a little after 9 right now. I thought I'd give you guys a quick look at what the fire's looking like right now. Still burning. I haven't touched it really at this point, Actually, it's doing pretty good, but I am going to go ahead and jockey some of these logs around so that they do burn a little better. Alright guys, so we made it to the morning. As you can see, it's a little under 30 degrees, around 28 or so. It did get pretty cold last night, so I don't know, around 2:30 or so, and the fire had pretty well died down. I switched over to my negative 20 degree bag, which seems to be the ticket. I think I kind of want to refrain from using it because it's kind of a heavy sleeping bag to pack, but once I slipped into it, then I was nice and pretty well warm for the rest of the night and slept pretty good. Alright guys, let's give you a quick look at what this fire lay looks like. Now with playing with this a little bit, with these big logs, they did smolder a good portion last night. I could hear them still popping and cracking out here well into the late of the night. If I was to do this again, I think what I would do is just make sure that I had plenty of small wood and plenty of some bigger wood, be able to come out and spark it back up. I wouldn't go with the idea that this thing's just going to burn and you're going to stay nice and warm and cozy all night, even with these bigger logs. But I think one of the nice things about using some good sized logs like this is that they did stay with coals for a good long time, so there's a good chance that when you wake up you're going to have something good to start with. And if you had some small wood set aside along with some larger wood, that you could get it back on here and get this thing going again pretty quickly. Alright guys, I'm all packed up. I'm going to get out of here. Got the MSR stove going, just reheat my coffee so I have a little road coffee. Obviously cutting this trip short. My plan was to be up here 2 days, but with the axe kind of giving me problems, and now it's actually snowing pretty good, as you can see, that I'm going to go ahead and cut it short and get out of here. Now there was a lot of things yet I kind of wanted to play with and do, so we'll just have to try to plan another trip here shortly. Kind of get this axing squared away, either get another one or figure out what I'm going to do there. With what I did this weekend with the shelter and the fire and everything, it was somewhat successful and somewhat not successful. So I think there's a lot of room to play with there. I mean, I don't think it was outright failure in any way, but it didn't work as well as I'd hoped. But you know, hopefully just a little bit more tweaking. I definitely want to play with a little more tweaking, and I think it might be a good winter option as far as being able to get out and do some camping. Anyways, until the next video, I'll see you guys later.